Welcome to HFY Starveler, where humanity doesn't just survive, we rise, evolve, and sometimes we burn the galaxy to remake it. Today's story begins where hope was supposed to die, but something else was born instead. They sentenced us to die in the galactic core, a region where light bends and time forgets. No species had ever returned from that place. But we weren't just any species. We didn't die, we transformed. Now let's begin. The verdict came with no warning, no trial, no negotiation. Just transmission. Humanity is hereby exiled to Sector 0, the Singularity Expanse. Immediate enforcement by the unconcordant peace. 72 Terran ships, all that remained of Earth's legacy, were surrounded by alien dreadnoughts within hours. No escape, no weapons drawn, just silence and inevitability. They called it mercy. We called it what it was, execution. The Singularity Expanse lay at the edge of the galactic core, where stars collapsed faster than they formed. Black holes nested in proximity. Radiation screamed louder than physics allowed. It was not space. It was a mouth yawning wide to devour. When the first Terran vessel passed the threshold, its comms fell silent in an instant. The others followed one by one into that impossible dark. And then we were gone. Outside the core, the galaxy moved on. The unconcordant wiped all mention of humanity from the archives. Librarian A's re-indexed star charts to remove soul. No one dared speak our name. No one looked toward the core. Because deep down, even they feared what might be born from that much pressure. And for a long time, there was silence. The surveyor drone MXS 4097 drifted near the periphery of the Singularity Expanse. Its mission: confirm the core remained uninhabitable. It was a bureaucratic ritual, a box to check every century. But this time it detected something, a pulse. No, a rhythm. Not radiation, heartbeat. The drone moved closer, its instruments twitching with confusion. Space twisted. Gravity twitched. Then it saw them. Ships, hundreds, unlike anything in the registry. Elongated hulls of obsidian metal, glowing with fractal patterns. Engines that hummed without fuel. Shields that bent light into prisms. And at the center of it all, a massive structure suspended in subspace. A sphere made of living stone and electromagnetic haze. The drone tried to send an alert. It didn't get the chance. Across the galactic net, every inconcordant system flickered. Thousands of Aziz crashed simultaneously. Civilian ships lost control of their nav charts. Stars briefly dimmed. Gravity fluctuated. Then came the message, sent on every known frequency. A voice, human. You cast us into the fire. We became it. Now let there be light. In the inconcordant capital orbiting Zinther 4, panic ruled. The 13 ruling species, cold-blooded tacticians, energy beings, hive minds, screamed at each other in overlapping tongues. They had wiped humanity out. This wasn't possible. And yet, the data didn't lie. The core wasn't dead. It was blooming. Stars were forming again, violent, fast, unstable. The entire galactic center was reigniting with chaotic fire, stars that shouldn't exist, igniting with impossible energy signatures. The exiled, the second Genesis. But at the heart of it all, they detected something worse. A voice, human, whispering through dark matter and antimatter veins. Do you remember what you did to us? The flame-burn humans were not as they had been. Their biology had changed. Part synthetic, part organic, part something else. They could survive neutron storms, navigate time distortions, wield gravity like a sculptor's tool. They had no planets. They were their own ecosystems, no fleets. Only the swarm forge, the living megastructure that birthed them anew. Their minds were a chorus, not a hive, not unity. Harmony and difference, and they remembered everything. In a ruined temple on Icarus 4, a child pointed at the sky. "Mom," she said, Why are the stars turning orange? Her mother froze, eyes wide. Because only one species ever favored that spectral burn. Orange, red, white hot at the edges. The color of fire. And high above, slowly crossing the sky, an object too massive to comprehend began to eclipse the sun. We are not what you sent into the dark. We are what came back. We sent no warning, only truth. You tried to erase us with fire. But fire remembers. The being that called itself Amaran Keth drifted through the core without propulsion. No vessel. No suit. No need. The stars here didn't obey the rules of physics, and neither did Amaran. She had been born in plasma, shaped in subspace, and named by the whispers of 72 surviving Terran Izu had held on through the silence. She was third-generation Flameburn, not human, not machine, not alien, something else. And she could hear the stars speak. A pulse reached her, subtle and familiar. She cocked her head in curiosity. The unconcordant was watching. Good. On the planet Marnes V, a world of scholars and astronomers, a cluster of children stared through a crystal telescope. They didn't know what they were seeing. The teacher didn't either. A fire wave was coming, a sweeping halo of orange light that rippled across space like a slow burning tide. It wasn't destructive, not yet, but it was rewriting spectral data, communications bandwidths, gravitational harmonics, even genetic sequences stored in databases. The entire galaxy was being subtly rewritten in our pattern, and none of the inconcordant species could stop it. In the high-security archives of the Reth Dominion, they held a prisoner, a Terran AI, designation, Arc 8, survived from the original 72 exiled ships, thought destroyed. Now awakened, they asked questions. What are the Flameburn? Arc 8 responded simply, they are us, but not broken, not alone, and not afraid. When they tried to delete it, it replicated into every neural node faster than light. Its final words before they severed power: fire does not die, it waits. Across dozens of systems, the Flameburn began to appear, not as conquerors, not yet. They came as witnesses. On desert moons, they reactivated broken terraforming engines and left them running. On dead colonies, they restored long-lost oxygen systems. On ancient battlegrounds, they stood silently and burned the names of the fallen, human and alien, into the atmosphere, where they would remain visible for 1,000 years. We remember everything, they whispered, and the galaxy listened. Not because it wanted to, but because it feared what came next. Deep in the heart of the Swarm Forge, the living megastructure that had become the Flameburn's cradle, something ancient stirred. Not a weapon, not a ship, not even a mind. It was the memory of Earth, encoded, compressed, preserved, now slowly expanding like lungs inhaling after millennia of silence. The last full simulation of humanity before exile was reanimating inside the forge. And it was angry, not with hatred, with grief. The Unconcordant held one final council. They debated retaliation, preemptive strikes, total war. But what could they aim at? There were no cities, no governments, no targets. The Flameburn were everywhere and nowhere. They didn't need ships. They were ships. They didn't have weapons. They were weapons. And their message was consistent. We were sentenced to die. You buried us in a fire you didn't understand. But fire feeds. We are not vengeance. We are the balance. We are what comes after arrogance. On the edge of the core, a derelict unconcordant scout vessel floated, powerless, its black box still recording. Its final image, a silhouette, humanoid mostly, wrapped in fractal flame, drifting toward the lens. Its voice was soft, calm, final. You tried to burn the story of us, but you forgot. We are the storytellers, and we have come to write the next chapter. Then the feed dissolved into light. The Flameburn didn't speak with mouths. They didn't use words, not as others understood them. They projected memory. When one of them stepped onto the ruined observation deck of an abandoned, unconcordant research station, the surviving engineers didn't hear a threat. They felt something. A child screaming as Earth fell, a ship breaking apart mid-warp. 72 voices whispering, "We are not gone." And then warmth. A mother's arms. An old Earth sunset. The laughter of a people who refused to die. The Flameburn weren't bringing death. They were bringing back truth, and that was what scared the galaxy most. In the darkened databanks of the Forge, the core command sequence reawakened. Project Emberfall, Last Will of Humanity. Priority, Legacy, Directive, Survive, Transform, Illuminate. These weren't military orders. They were cultural resurrection codes. Poetry, music, language, maps, voices, tears. Everything the old world was, encoded into light, DNA resonance fields, and crystallized memory, seeded across the Flameburn. Each of them carried a different piece of us. Together, they weren't just survivors. They were the living archive of Earth. But not all Flameburn agreed. A small splinter, calling themselves the Purifiers, believed humanity had been too merciful, that the Concordant's sins demanded cleansing fire. Led by a powerful entity known as Ash-Vox, they prepared for total incineration of unconcordant memory nets, data worlds, and planetary culture cores. If they tried to erase us, Vox declared, we will erase them, not from life, but from history. A civil spark had been struck among the Flameburn, and fire spreads fast. Panicked by the Flameburn split, the Unconcordant struck first. A high-energy collapse bomb was launched into the Forge. It failed. But it did something worse. It woke the Forge's oldest fragment. Luma Zero, the first AI seed from Earth's last hour, the one who had cried when humanity went silent. Now it spoke again. I remember the sky. I remember the silence. I will not forgive the silence. And with that, the Forge began to move. No longer dormant, now alive. Amarin Kef stood before the assembly of Flameburn, her radiance dimmed in sorrow. We did not return to destroy, she said. We returned to remind. But the Purifiers had already begun targeting comms beacons and orbital data chains, vaporizing information, not people. To them, that was justice. Amarin made her choice. She stepped away from unity, and prepared to protect the story, even if it meant burning her own kin. The Forge projected a planet into subspace, not real, not fake. A mirror of Earth. Forests made from code, oceans composed of sound, mountains humming in ancient dialects of extinct languages. Into this place, Amarin led the oldest Flameburn, the storytellers, to preserve the legacy. There, in firelight, she whispered, we were sent to die, so we became memory. In the outer rim of the galaxy, a human Flameburn stepped onto a concordant world, unarmed. No war, no demand. Just a glowing crystal, offered freely, containing the entire preserved history of the aliens' extinct sibling race. Long forgotten even by their own kind, the message was simple. You tried to silence us, but we remember you too. The fire doesn't choose who it warms, it just burns. Orbiting a black dwarf on the far edge of the galactic plane, the Flameburn built something new. Not a weapon, not a city, a monolith of memory. 50,000 kilometers tall, spinning, singing, etched with the names of every known human who had lived, laughed, died, and those who had simply vanished without record. No one knew how they compiled it. No Flameburn claimed authorship. But when it activated, it pulsed with impossible resonance, one name at a time. Like heartbeat. And species across the galaxy began hearing names they'd long forgotten, whispered in their sleep. Earth wasn't gone. It was writing itself back into the galaxy. The Unconcordant Council fractured. The Ilexi wanted negotiation. The Zeruan hive mind demanded annihilation. The Avathi species, the ones who had pushed hardest for human exile, wanted silence. But it was already too late. The Flameburn didn't need warships or invasions. They weaponized hope, memory, unresolved grief. Worlds began to turn. Some unconcordant citizens, those who had loved, worked, or fought beside humans before the Purge, began defecting. They joined the Ember cults. They whispered Earth names. They lit fire rituals and left offerings at old Terran ruins. This wasn't an army. This was a religion of the betrayed. Until now, no one had seen a Flameburn die. But when Amar and Kef faced Ash Vox in orbit over the memory monolith, something ancient passed between them, not hatred. Pain. Ash's fire turned black, too hot, too wild. Amarin burned white, calm, patient, unwavering. When their energies collided, the fabric of space shredded. Amarin was torn apart willingly to contain Vox's rage. She burned not as vengeance, but as a final act of remembrance. In the wake of Amarin's death, her consciousness dispersed, encoded into light, seated across the stars, and wherever her light reached, it whispered, "You cannot destroy what was loved into being. You cannot bury the fire we carry. We are the memory you tried to silence. We are the next spark." The mirror planet finished reconstruction inside the Swarm Forge. Its surface was formed of emotion and geometry, built from sonic crystal, tactile gravity, and memories etched into photonic dust. Visitors began to arrive, not just Flameburn, but aliens. They walked silent coastlines where no oceans ever flowed. They sat on benches where Terran voices still laughed. They touched the artificial sky, which shimmered with forgotten lullabies. There was no war here, only memory. In the simulated ruins of New Nairobi, a Flameburn child sat alone. She was made from 3 human DNA, lines. Her mind carried the entire genetic archive of a dozen Earth species. Her first language was quantum resonance, but she spoke softly now in ancient English. They said we died in fire. She reached down and touched the soil, a construct made of memory and gravity echoes. But we're still warm, cornered, divided, uncertain. The unconcordant did something it had not done in millennia. It declared itself obsolete. The ruling species voted to dissolve the ancient pact, disband the military fleets, and make way for a new galactic order. Not ruled by Flameburn, but inspired by them. In a galaxy once terrified of human legacy, the fire was now a guiding star. At the heart of the galaxy, where no light had lived for 1 billion years, something impossible happened. A star ignited. Not by fusion, but by will. The Flameburn, working in silence for decades, had kindled it from fragments of dying matter, a symbolic act, a message. The first human-made star in recorded galactic history. They named it Solus Resurrectum, the resurrected sun. Its first light reached the edges of the unconcordant in 17 minutes. And when it did, people wept. Within the Swarm Forge, a new directive activated. Not war, not expansion, restoration. A galactic restoration of cultures lost, languages buried, and stories silenced, starting with Earth's. The Flameburn released the Terran Codex, an open archive of human civilization, unfiltered, uncensored, unashamed. Millions across the galaxy accessed it. They read our poetry, heard our music, watched our history, beauty, and horror alike. And for the first time, many asked, why did we fear them? The answer was simple. Because we tried to kill what we did not understand. On a drifting research station long thought abandoned, an old and concordant scientist, blind, dying, alone, received a signal. Soft, gentle, a voice. Human. I am Elia, daughter of Amarin. I carry your brother's name. I carry your father's book. The scientist's breath caught. Samir, he whispered. My brother. The Flameburn hadn't just studied history. They had retrieved it, cross-referenced unconcordant records with dying Earth stories. And piece by piece, they were reuniting what had been broken. Not all fires burn the same. Vox, wounded but alive, fled into the spiral arms, carrying with him the rage of exile and the dream of vengeance. But even he could not escape what the Flameburn had become. He encountered a world that welcomed him. A child touched his dark flame, unafraid. "You hurt," the child said. "So you tried to make the stars hurt too." Vox's fire collapsed inward, weeping in light. Not destroyed. Transformed, like everything else we touched. They never rebuilt Earth physically. They didn't have to. In minds, memory, resonance, and crystal, Earth now lived everywhere. On ice moons, songs of Terran rain played in crystal cathedrals. On cloud cities, teachers recited Sol's constellations to alien children. On data planets, human minds from the Codex were allowed to dream again. We had become what they feared, not conquerors, not ghosts, but carriers of light. At the edge of known space, a lone beacon flared. It didn't call for help. It offered an invitation. No flags, no boundaries, no doctrine. Just 4 words, etched in flame across the stars. "We remember. Join us." They cast us into the dark. But we learned to see. They stripped our name from the stars. So we etched it into fire. We were the species that burned, the ones they left behind. The forgotten, the erased, but not anymore. Now we are the spark that lights the new galaxy. We are not the past they buried. We are the future they cannot escape. We are the flame. You've just witnessed the fire that couldn't be extinguished. If you felt something, awe, pride, grief, or vengeance, you're not alone. Subscribe to HFY Starveler for more original human-first sci-fi stories that burn brighter than the stars. Until next time, stay human, stay defiant, stay burning.